Awkward Insurance. We were excited to be on the road in April at the 2024 PIA Arkansas Conference. Over 2 days of recording, we were greeted warmly by every association member and young insurance professional board member, as well as expo vendors and conference attendees alike. I wasn't quite sure what we were going to get when stepping into the conference space, but I think we were able to capture some pretty insightful perspectives and, more importantly, generate some very exciting conversations when it comes to initiatives at the National Alliance related to insurance and risk management high school curriculum. Let's get started on our conference episode and be sure to stick around for hot off the press bloopers at the end. First up, we're going to hear from Miss Jerry Price, hired project coordinator with the Arkansas Public School Resource Center. She's been working diligently on an insurance pathway for high school students in Northwest Arkansas utilizing the National Alliance CISR high school curriculum, and we were anxious to get her thoughts after she had been fully submerged into the Arkansas insurance industry for a day. We paired her up with Colton Johnson from James Green and Associates because he was more than willing and excited to talk about what it would do for our industry to engage with high school students as a pipeline for new industry talent. Let's listen in. We're at the 2024 PIA Arkansas Convention in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And Jerry, let's start with you. First of all, welcome to Awkward Insurance.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me a little bit about your position.
So in my history, I'm an educator. I've been an educator for my entire career, but in the last couple of years, I've been working with the Arkansas Public School Resource Center, building out a career coaching program that we're really creating a new model for the way that career coaching is done. And so we are partnered with 6 small rural school districts in Northwest Arkansas, trying to build out a model that really focuses on both college and careers that can be attained without going to college. So typically in career coaching, it's been very, very focused on college attendance. And so we really try to split that 50-50 at least on focusing on careers that can be attained through technical school or on-the-job training, apprenticeship, internship, and then also helping students with all things college, FAFSA, financial aid, scholarships, all of those things as well. So that is what we do. And there are 6 career coaches, small school districts.
I really feel like that is a much needed shift in the way that high school students have been talked to in the past, and being told that college is basically the only path or option that they have after high school kind of, in my opinion, lets them down a little bit. Like, if I don't go to college, then what am I going to make of my life? Which is kind of where insurance just really fills a huge gap, in my opinion.
Right, Dustin. And the thing that's so important is it's not just like how the students feel, it's actually the workforce that has suffered as a result of that. And
Yeah,
so
for sure.
we've really not focused enough on a whole variety of types of careers in the trades, in insurance and other business areas. As you said, there are lots of medical careers that students can attain without a college degree and make a great living, but also in manufacturing, and lots of spaces need people that know how to fix things, know how to take care of machinery, things
Trades,
like that.
for
The
sure.
trades, for sure. So there's just so much that has suffered because of the way we, and this is me as a high school administrator, along with lots of my peers, really focused on college so much more than any other of the career options for students. So it's definitely been a disservice to students, and we know that. But more than that, it's been a disservice to the workforce.
Yeah. Colton, did you start in insurance with a college degree?
Dustin, not at all. As with probably the story of 90% of the people in this industry. So started out as a Bible major in college, was going to
Nice.
go into vocational ministry. Ended up changing that as I didn't feel compelled to be a full-time pastor. So finished out with a business degree in college, and somehow actually ended up bringing the two together, which was really cool. So I am now serving in the insurance industry, so obviously part of the business component to that, and we serve in the niche of insuring churches and ministries. So my day consists of talking to pastors.
That's a great way to turn your passion into a niche focus within the insurance industry. But let's kind of jump into some meat and potatoes here of 10 years from now, as a young insurance professional and seeing kind of where you hope your career to go. What do you think the insurance industry's needs are within the new talent pipeline?
That's a great and I would say very loaded question, because I think that there's a substantial need for a variety of skill sets ultimately. And what I mean by that is focusing on the topic of conversation that we have here. I think there's essentially been a dynamic shift, particularly with younger people. That the okay, back in the 70s, 80s, the focus was higher education. As long as you get a degree, you're set. Then it seemed that okay, yes, while a great path, higher education seemed to become inundated with just people getting pieces of paper, which is great, in a lot of ways. But the question becomes preparing you for what and developing what type of skill sets. So I know for me personally, it ultimately comes down to really three categories. And that's being able to operate intelligently, being able to demonstrate that, articulate yourself in a coherent manner, and ultimately working with people with integrity. That I think is going to be ultimately what propels the industry forward is developing those skill sets, not necessarily just learning. So having the ability to do that within the industry, I think is going to be ultimately what sets someone apart.
Yeah, where do you see the high school situation coming into play with that? Like, what do you think we need out of our high schoolers coming out of school today?
Yeah, definitely. So being a YIP board member, a Young Insurance Professional board member here with the PIA, our focus has been largely on the college campuses, which has been awesome. We've loved engaging and working with those students. But the problem is that oftentimes, by the time someone gets to the college setting or towards the end of their high school career, they have their mind somewhat made up as to what they want to do with life. Sometimes they don't. But for high schoolers themselves, that's what I would say is again work. It's funny you hear these influencers, on social media talking about just invest in yourself, but that's so true. Of being able to present yourself in a manner to where you can focus on and become part of a group that is like-minded, and be able to again demonstrate your ideas in a way that's coherent.
Yeah. Hey, Dustin, can I jump in for a
Yeah,
second? Because
absolutely.
the way you asked that question was really super interesting because in our program, we start every conversation with students much later than we start our conversations with our industry professionals. And our
Hmm.
first question really is about their needs. And so our career coaching program for high school students doesn't start with high school students, it starts with workforce needs and what do the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, what does that need look like? And how can we help fulfill that need by persuading, introducing high school students to the field that we happen to be talking about. And so super interesting that I didn't have insurance on my list of industries that I would be
You do
approaching.
now.
I know, but it's because industry professionals came to me. They saw the work that we were doing in other spaces and they were like, "Hey, Jerry, we want to make a connection because we have a need for young people to enter into the insurance realm, the field, and they can get some great careers coming straight out of high school."
Yeah.
And we really focus on, like, a lot of our students come from generational poverty. They come from backgrounds where really going to college has a lot of barriers. And so we really try to focus on, for those that cannot go to college, we try to focus on areas where they can go straight to work out of high school. And then potentially, if a degree is needed, they can work through that while they're working. So, what we try to do is just give kids that are in these small rural school districts that really don't know what they don't know exposure to all different kinds of fields, all different kinds of careers, and then the pathway to getting that career. And we always try to give multiple pathways. So, what's exciting about this conversation is that the insurance industry can be a pathway. They can go through college, get a business degree. In some schools, they can even go through a program that's designed for those that want to go into risk management and into the insurance
Right.
field. But they can go to college and get a business degree, but there are other pathways.
Yes.
And there are so many things that students can get into straight out of high school
We're getting
to
into some
make
Jesus
sure.
talk now. We
There
need
we
some
go.
amens.
Yeah,
like
I can give an amen.
for sure. We just want multiple pathways to every direction we take kids. And so whether that's a career and technical school, that's a college degree, that's an internship in high school that leads to being hired straight out of high school, And then also our high school CTE courses, which is where I launched in after talking to the insurance professionals, like, hey, how can we create a high school program for this?
Yeah, for sure. Colton, just knowing we had a great conversation yesterday at the expo event for the PIA Arkansas convention. And I know you are super fired up about getting engaged with high school. So you had so much to say, I can't even remember it all. After hearing what Jerry just said, what are your thoughts?
That's one thing. I was thinking of the former question that you just asked and what Jerry was just speaking to, and it's funny because it was bringing me back to high school, right? And I think that a lot of high school students can probably resonate with this. Even starting in the junior high time frame, you start to think about what does the future look like, and I think ultimately, whenever it's gray or cloudy or ambiguous, that's whenever students may start to stray off path, so to speak. But it's whenever they have direction and a singular focus to work towards that ultimately drives them even further to achieve those goals. So that's where I would, concising it down to a single phrase is where we can give students direction that allows for versatility. I think is really attractive as a career path, and that's exactly what the insurance industry has to offer. So me as an agent, as a sales manager within our agency, so many times I play counselor and claims adjuster, friend, someone who's going to come alongside and work with clients. And so it just allows for such a versatile, clear path for such a variety of personalities.
Yeah. Jerry, in your expertise and after attending today's conference, what are some of the most efficient or impactful ways you think the insurance industry might be able to engage with high school students? And I ask this from the perspective of I speak to a lot of insurance professionals who are excited about getting engaged with high school students. Let's do it. But it generally stops with, well, let's attend their career day and I'll talk to them about insurance. And there's not much more engagement
Right.
after that. And I think that kind of sells us a little short. So, from your experience, like what are some impactful ways we can actually engage with high school students where it makes a difference?
Right. I'm gonna start back just one step before that, and that's the why. Like, why would you? Because it seems like that, it may not render the greatest results. But here's what I can tell you about today's high school students is they're exceptionally creative. They're really, really good with all the technology, with all the thing. They're hyper interested in a lot of things. And we sometimes they get a little bit of a bad rap. What I'm going to tell you is that there are high school students right now in whatever town you're in that can
What do we
come
say?
in,
Podunk, Arkansas?
Podunk, Arkansas, um, that can come in and make an impact on your business. Like they are that skilled with various things, but they are that good with people. So those kids are out there, first of all. And second of all, it is going to reduce, when your pipeline is pay $1 an hour more to try to steal someone else, which is typical of the entire workforce right now,
Mm,
that's not sustainable.
right.
And so you need a new system, and that's where you're going to find those students is in high schools.
Yeah.
And whether that's like you start for them a sophomore in high school and you're playing the long game for when they graduate from a program in business, or if you're starting them in high school and then you're hiring them straight out of high school, maybe putting them through college, maybe helping them work their way through college, or you will find that there are many that are so skilled. The honest truth is they don't need to go to college
Yeah.
to be in the space. Now, they will work through the education. They have an education that they need, but that doesn't always have to be college. So first, just the why. Why would you? Why would you even invest in this? But secondly, I think to do it, you can just think of it very much like a marketing funnel. It starts broad and then it just gets more and more focused. And so broad to me would be going to a high school and speaking to a business class, or like our program has what we call career seminars, which are a giant Zoom with breakout rooms, and students choose which professional they want to hear from. And so that would be a very broad start. And then engaging with that teacher, that business teacher at your school, engaging with the career coach at that school and say, hey, I would like to host a tour of, I don't know, 20 kids, 20 or 30 kids. So now we go from this broad, I'm speaking to all the business classes, or I'm going to a career fair and speaking to students, that's very broad, down to now I've got 20 or 30 and they're coming to my place to see what it is we do. And so the students get more focus, but then also the professional gets a more focused group of students in front of them. You go a little bit further, you say, hey, now I want to host 2 or 3 for job shadows. Let them come in. We can do multi-day job shadows if we have if we're a pretty good size and we have multiple different kinds of jobs within my office. So then job shadow one day or multiple days to see the different areas. And then finally, the most focused approach is a high school internship. And so we have a setup in Arkansas. I'm sure other states have the same thing where students can get high school credits for attending an internship during their junior or senior year, for example. And so that's the most focus. So it just starts with this broad general involvement, and then it just gets a little more focused where I'm focusing on a school with a business teacher, bringing them in, or it could be a school with a career coach, and I'm bringing them to my place. And then it gets a little more focused with the job shadow opportunities for a handful, and then ultimately every year I'm going to hire one that's an intern for me coming like through their senior year or after their senior year, between their junior and senior year during the summer. But those job shadows become kind of a job interview, if you will, an internship interview where they're building these relationships. And if they build relationships with business teachers in their local high school, the other thing is that when they have that relationship, that business teacher is not going to steer them wrong. They're not going to send them students that they are worried about, performing well. If they have that relationship with that teacher or that coach, their name is kind of on the line. So they're going to send them great students, and they will end up getting to choose from really the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
And so there's that side of it. But I think the thing that would make me most likely to really push it out to our coaches and push it out to our students is when I attended dinner last night, and we were, a group of people that I didn't know, but the care and concern for each other, it was obvious that I was sitting with a family of people that were from different parts of the state, different parts of the country, and they come together as professionals, but then they become close friends and family. And there's a built-in support system for people in this space. And I don't see that in every industry that I work with. And I think that A, that is just super cool. But B, I feel like students of this generation will lean into that.
Thank you so much. I love that insight that you got from our dinner, and we have had so much fun having you here and getting to understand your insights about this. Jerry and Colton, thank you so much for sitting down with Awkward Insurance today. It has been our pleasure.
Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you for having us.
I cannot wait to see what the next 6 months to 1 year looks like for insurance education in Arkansas. But now let's listen to what got Miss Jerry so inspired at the PIA Arkansas conference. Mr. Victor Worley brought a hot topic, in my opinion, building a business with retirement in mind. I think we can all agree that the insurance industry may have forgotten that retirement may not be the first goal, but it is the final goal. Mr. Worley has some thoughts on this. Welcome to Awkward Insurance, Victor.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited you said yes.
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
I love it. So we're here at the convention. Tell me a little bit about your background and your expertise, as well as the important issues that you hope to address in your session today.
Yeah, so I have a background in the insurance industry. One of the first businesses that I started was an insurance-focused business. At this point, our practice focuses heavily on helping business owners grow, scale, and then eventually exit their business. That is particularly important in the insurance business, where oftentimes that exit either doesn't happen at all, or at least doesn't happen the way that the agency owners think that it should.
Right, absolutely. So let's stay out of the sales portion for a second. Let's talk about this topic of retirement and building that business towards that. What made you passionate about that topic?
You know, a lot of it goes back to my family and growing up. I was raised in a household where there was a lot of love, but not always a lot of money. And retirement was something that wasn't really ever on my parents' radar. And I watched them as they worked and did their thing, and it never really focusing on the future as much as maybe they could have or should have. And that helped prime me as I started my business and realizing the mistakes that get made by people all the time, and the importance of long-term planning, the importance of of doing things with an intentional mindset.
Awesome. So, in the insurance industry, which I know you said you're more insurance adjacent, but you've got a really good hold on the insurance industry. From my
Hmm.
perspective, we kind of have an epidemic of insurance professionals that are maybe past their prime. And again, from my perspective, it might be hindering the new talent pipeline from
100%.
from the direction of archaic processes that are being held on to, and
Hmm.
younger generations aren't on board for that. So do you feel that there's a reason, or there's an epidemic of agency owners who are, why do you think they're not retiring?
Yeah, yeah. So the insurance industry specifically is very prone to having businesses, having agencies that the agency principal, the insurance agent that started it all 30, 40, 50 years ago, they can still practice at a high level and still be heavily involved in their business,
Mhm.
which is a good thing, but it's also the worst thing
Mhm.
because for a successful transition, for a successful exit, that agency owner has to get out of the way. That agency owner has to be able to build the business in such a way where it will run without them. I ask business owners all the time, can you disappear for a month? Can you walk away and not be reachable for a full month, and will your business still
And
operate?
what are your general answers to that
Oh,
question?
in the insurance industry, especially, it's absolutely not. No, there's no way. The principle of that agency is the centerpiece of everything. It's the way that they've always done it, and it makes it hard for them to step out of the
But I have a
way.
question. Is it truly that they can't step away and the business still functions, or they have the mindset that they think they wouldn't be able to step away when truly they could and everything would operate fine with maybe a few
Yeah.
hiccups?
So most of the time, in my experience in the insurance industry specifically, they can't step away because they haven't built their business in a way that allows for that.
Okay.
They've not hired producers and service people who are autonomous. They are not giving the right authority and the right training to their people. They are unintentionally creating dependency and creating a situation where all of the tent poles lean up against themselves. And so oftentimes the answer is no, they absolutely can't step away. They should be able to, but that requires years of intentional growth and intentional, structuring to be able to reach that point.
So the first thing that's coming to my mind as you're talking about that is maybe this isn't just an agency owner epidemic. I kind of feel like account managers that are truly responsible for their books of business as well have this mindset. Like, if I even take a 1 week vacation, it's all going to fall apart. My clients aren't going to have their service, which is a trickle down from the agency owner, right? And that goes into the processes that
Yes.
we'll talk with Casey Nelson about in a little while.
Yep.
So let's kind of wrap this up into, I don't know, top recommendations for, let's start small, because when you think about retirement, most people can't even make a 3-year plan, much less a 20-year retirement plan, right? So
Yeah.
let's start small and think, what are your recommendations for building a desk or an agency where you can step away
Yeah.
for 1 month?
I think it all starts with having your agency valuated by a professional business valuator so that you have a realistic picture of what that asset is worth. Most business owners recognize that their business, their insurance agencies, the most valuable asset that they have, but they have a very unrealistic picture of what it's worth. Oftentimes they overestimate its value, and then they get slapped in the face when they're ready to retire. And I think if you will make a plan, if an agency owner will make a plan to find out what their business is worth and then start making incremental changes, find a way to give more autonomy to the people beneath you, create a culture change. You're spot on with what you're saying that a lot of the account managers take their cue from their leader,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they create a situation where nobody can do what I can do. Well, that's not a healthy environment. There has to be multiple redundancies. If one person gets sick or worse, God forbid, the agency should be able to continue to operate. And unfortunately, that's not the case in most businesses. So just starting to make those little changes, you'll see a compound effect over time.
Yeah. You started out with mentioning getting the agency valuated. What
Mhm.
about new agencies that are just starting up and value is being worked on
Yeah.
or actualized at the moment? How do they start out the right way?
Yeah. So I think recognizing on day one that I am building a business and I intend to sell this business. This is not just something that I'm going to show up and do. Work on your business, not always just in your business.
I like that. Work on your business, not just in your business.
Mhm.
That's a good one.
Yep.
Victor, thank you so much for sitting
Yeah.
down with Awkward Insurance today. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
I loved talking to Victor, but in order to retire or even step away from your desk for vacation, I wanted to talk to Casey Nelson next about the importance of proper client onboarding processes to help ensure that your book is set up for success from the get go. Here, we're talking about training your clients to do business your way. After all, the Bible says train them in the way they should go, right? This doesn't just have to be about tech or automation. It also comes down to helping your client understand how best to communicate with you, what to communicate with you, how or when to file claims, what is urgent and what may not be, and more. Let's listen to what Casey has to say.
I have with me right now Casey Nelson, CEO and founder of Stakewise, Stackwise. Let's try that again.
That happens all the time. It is no big deal. It's the Stackwise with a C was not available in the .com space.
Got it. Well, we'll keep rolling with it then. CEO and founder of Stackwise Data Automation. Welcome to Awkward Insurance, Casey.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so honored that you asked me to jump on board with you. So let's go. This is fun.
Well, we are so excited to have you. And you just came off stage. And I'm so sorry I didn't get to poke my head in and actually listen to what it was you were talking about. And so tell me a little bit about your background and your expertise and the important issues that you hope the audience kind of captured from your session today.
Sure, absolutely. So my story kind of builds into that question. Is I actually started my career in after college as a teacher. So I was teaching senior government not that long ago, and learning to hone my presentation skills 4 or 5 times a day to a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds they had varying degrees of interest in learning about government and its operations. And
Kids are interested in government and its operations?
not that much.
About as interested as they are in insurance, right?
That's true. That's true. But what I did learn a long time ago was if you can relate what you need to teach to something they do care about, it makes a big difference. And now it actually helps a lot when I'm presenting insurance topics or working with clients and they need to understand why something can or cannot happen. I have at least that kind of tool in my toolbox to be able to kind of try to find something to relate it to that they do understand. But yeah, so my teaching career lasted for about 8 years. The money was not what I wanted it to be for my future. So I left and started a branch of an insurance agency that I used to be a client of. Did that for a year. I was basically a captive. I had.
Is that how most people get into insurance? They just go to their current insurance agent and they're like, hey, tell me about what you do.
Ooh, you know what? I don't know, but
This looks so much fun.
Well, I got to be friends with the owners of the agency and I got to be in their fantasy football league. And it was one of the like real serious ones where you had to be in person and there was a lot of banter. And I always felt like these guys just ran an insurance agency so they could be good at fantasy football. And that's all they did. So I assumed that they just made money and played fantasy football and running an agency was easy. I found out that's not the truth at all. So I did that for a year, then moved back to Texas and ran their agency for 6 years as a COO and fell in love with the automation side where I could make technology talk. I could take questions and complaints from staff that say, hey, I do this thing 15 times a day. It's redundant. Can it just happen? And, I'd mess around with the programs and figure it out. Eventually, I had kind of a portfolio of workflows and things we could build. So that's where Stackwise came from.
Yeah.
And Stackwise, I left because I realized that there's some daylight in the market. There are people that will provide automation and workflows, but they don't really necessarily always coach or consult, which is really where we, I think, are a little bit different, is that we want to have ongoing relationships where we can continue to build off of what's happening. Because even one of the pieces I presented on, we just figured out 2 weeks ago, and we're pushing it out to all of our clients. So all of our clients that have been with us, now we can add an extra value because we figured out some new workflow. So my presentation in the conference today was largely about how to make your clients more profitable through an effective onboarding sequence, because new client onboarding does tend to be something that is neglected. I don't want to say no one does it well.
Oh, I agree for sure. Especially when it not just onboarding a new client, but maybe being more selective about that in that onboarding process and kind of filtering out some of the problem children, so to speak.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things I presented on was this light bulb moment I had a few years ago where a friend of mine was a client of the agency I was running. And actually I wrote his insurance when I first started there. And after I left the agency, I asked him, I said, "Why did you always text me when you needed something?" And he said, "Because you never told me what I should have done." And I thought, well, yeah, in our onboarding process, we need to take time, really put thought into our processes, and then teach our clients how to execute those processes in a way that gives us the opportunity to provide better service, gives our staff a process so they don't feel stretched and stressed out and chaos. And then that increases profitability significantly. So that was really the focus of the presentation today.
Yeah, awesome. Let's put the tech aside for just a second because there's a lot of podcasts out there about
Yes.
tech, and we could talk about tech all day long. Let's focus on that onboarding process. Of course, there's lots of different ways to talk about an onboarding process, whether it's onboarding new employees, which there's a whole process for onboarding them to teach them how to onboard clients. And there's onboarding clients in terms of let's talk about how we're going to do their risk assessment up front in insurance, and we're going to find out the products that they need and kind of what their exposures are. But then we're also going to coach them on our processes so that they can learn our way of doing business and that we're not trying to fit some, what do they say, square pegs and round holes, or is it round pegs and square holes? Why are you so passionate about the onboarding process specifically?
Because I think in my experience on the agency side, we realized after we had 2 CSRs leave the agency within the span of 2 weeks, and we were in level 5 panic mode. We
Level
thought,
5 alert.
yeah, how are we going to manage this? Oh my
Ship is
gosh.
going
We
down.
didn't lose 20% of our clients, but we lost 20% of our CSR staff.
And that leads to client runoff, to be honest with you. Even
Right.
if you, I think there's one, and I'm sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt,
no,
but
you're
there is a mistake that some agency owners might think that they think when a producer leaves, they're going to have client runoff. I can promise you that when your good CSRs leave, you're going to have some client runoff because that was their person. We'll take it back to Grey's Anatomy. You're my person. That was their person. And
Sure.
so, yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So, well, we had actually the opposite experience. We had no increase in service work. It was not difficult. The remaining service staff was fine, and we were kind of shocked. So we thought, well, why did this happen? Well, we realized that our service staff was in just this perpetual game of phone tag or email tag to secure information. And that was creating the backlog in service requests, not really the fact that there were that many service requests. So we were able to then kind of catch our breath and think like, okay, wait a minute, like we're okay. And then we also then developed our service form where we were able to guide our staff through collecting all of the information that was needed so that they didn't have to go back and say, oh no, I forgot to ask the lien holder or a deductible question or, whatever detail that they forgot that now is going to prevent them from completing whatever endorsement or change they needed to make. So we realized that just by being more efficient and paying more attention and eliminating or reducing that phone tag, that communication tag, it made a huge difference. So, that's definitely one of the things that sparked the onboarding process for me, because the next step of that was, okay, if we can make our processes more efficient, we still have to train the clients to use those processes. And it's very easy for an agency to fall into the mentality of, I want to be all things to all people. You can send me a Facebook message. You can send me a text. You can send me an email.
I see that
you
a
can call.
lot on social media, right?
Oh, it's so I've been kind of trying to put into words what the thoughts in my head on this, and I'm calling it front door theory. And so far, there's no front door theory out there. So please don't buy the URL. I need to buy it later today. But the idea to me is that all processes need to go through the same front door. Sorry, there can be a sales door and a service door, but like there has to.
But they're on the front of the building. I get it.
Yeah, because if things are coming in through the windows,
side
and the garage
doors.
door, and the back door, and you don't know
Let's
which
not
room
mention
it's in.
back doors.
Good. Didn't think about. Yes. Oh, bazinga. Yes. Nice. That is excellent.
Love it.
So yeah, but I think a lot of agencies, if they're really pressed on it, they don't really have a process. You know, this person
Or
has
they
a,
think they do, but it's like, what do they say? Putting lipstick on a pig?
sure.
Right.
Right. Well, and your staff's only going to respect what you inspect, right? That's another catchy phrase.
Respect what you inspect.
Yeah. So if
We're
you're
getting a lot of good little catchphrases here.
oh, cool. I'll keep bringing them out.
Nice.
But you can train somebody to do something. You can train somebody to use a tool that will help them with their job. But if you're not holding them accountable to actually using it, then it's not really helping them. And if you have one person going through a service process or a sales process that starts in the CRM and another one that starts in the AMS and another one who's using pen and paper, it's really hard to hold people accountable, and it's really hard to know if you're failing at anything
Yeah.
because you don't know
Yeah.
until it's too late. So that's a big part of this is pushing agencies to really be honest with themselves. Do you have a process? Yes or no? And then also empowering them to enforce that process
Yeah.
and giving them the tools to know if it's working. Because I'm a big sports guy, so I hope this analogy makes sense. When I was growing up watching baseball, the managers in the 80s and 90s had to decide whether or not to make a change with the pitcher just based on their eyes. What are they observing? Maybe they knew, I'm sure they knew how many pitches the pitcher had thrown, and they knew the score, but they could only observe. Now, professional managers know the spin rate, the velocity. They have all kinds of this analytic data that they don't even have to make the decision anymore. They have the data now to make a educated decision and do the right thing versus just trusting their gut. And agencies that manage with their gut, they may have the best of intentions, but if they're going to dedicate time to training or to bettering their staff and they're not using data to know where their staff needs the attention, then we're just kind of guessing. And it might work and it might not, but having a process means you can collect data and you can be more targeted with your.
Absolutely. We just spoke with Victor Worley. He was up on stage, or he's on stage right now, actually. And we spoke with him about building an agency that agency owners, and we even got into even account managers, that they can step away from their desk. He, kind of had this long-term vision of that you'll eventually be able to retire. Because right now, let's face it, we have a little bit of an epidemic in the insurance industry of insurance professionals that are past time for retirement. And one thing I spoke with him about was, this is also maybe inhibiting new talent pipelines coming in because we're holding on to some archaic processes. So as we're talking about processes and onboarding, this just kind of fits right into building a process that allows you to be able to step away, not at retirement, but just for vacation. He said that he asked the question to several agency owners, if you left for a month, could you step away from your agency? And it operates just fine. And I asked, what's the answer to it? The answer is largely no. So I guess that might be like the entrant for you into, having these conversations. If you could step away from your agency for a month, could it work without you? And if the answer is no, well, then whatever process you think you have is not actually a process, is it?
That's a great point. It's a great lead in for what we do for agencies, because absolutely that would be the end goal.
Yeah.
We never really verbalized it or put it in those terms, but it does make perfect sense, is to say, let's set up the main processes or all of the processes in your agency so they're repeatable, and also
repeatable being a key factor.
Sure.
And I don't know, I don't want to say the word evolutionary, but like I said, when it comes to the new talent pipeline, there's not a lot of new talent coming in. And I have to believe it's because they don't want to work with the processes that we have in place right now. They want to do what they've been doing since the day they were born, which is technology.
Oh, absolutely. The ability of agencies to both have training platforms or training materials for their agency, and then also a knowledge base that can be referenced at any point, is extremely valuable. The agencies that are dedicating the time to building either, it doesn't have to be like a chat bot integration where someone can ask a question and then it searches the knowledge base, although that's really cool when agencies do set that up, but just having the resources readily available with step-by-step, either videos or, tutorials, because it provides really, really easy to follow information for your agency. And then you don't have to be the person they go to when they don't know how to do something. You've got a built-in mechanism and training for them to say, hey, have you checked the knowledge base yet? And if they have, then you know that filter prevents you from being pulled in all the directions so that you can't go on vacation.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow. I think we've captured a lot. Casey, thanks so much for sitting down with us today. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. Thank you very much.
Once all was said and done, Awkward had a fantastic time getting some very interesting insights at the 2024 PIA Arkansas Conference. Building a business that keeps succession in mind from the start ensures that leadership and teams are ready to engage with clients, industry partners, and incoming talent for the long haul. Having these processes in place now means you aren't working on reinventing the wheel mid growth cycle and will be ready to scale at the right moment. Now, let's listen to what some of the attendees we spoke to had to say about what they hope others take away from sessions like those presented at the PIA Arkansas Conference and consider what they envision for young professionals entering our industry.
I have with me right now Matthew Gleason, producer at Gleason Insurance, UCA graduate of the Insurance and Risk Management
Yes,
program as well. And I hear it is your first time at a PA Arkansas event.
it is. Yep, definitely first time, and I've absolutely loved the event.
What have you gotten out of the 2024 PA Arkansas conference that gives you hope for the future of the insurance industry? And I am particularly interested in your answer, considering you're newer to the industry.
Well, I think all of the great connections definitely is one big takeaway. Kind of seeing what you can have sit down, have a conversation with different marketing reps, things like that, see what they're going through. It gives you perspective
Mhm.
too. So it's really great to have that, be able to look at at what they're facing on the other side compared to myself as just an agent. But as far as the future, I mean, it definitely happy about. I want to say I'm not happy, but I guess hopeful
Mhm.
because it seems like everyone's making good steps towards kind of surviving this hard market that we're in. But I can talk all day about it. But the recent changes with Arkansas state law going to ACV, loss settlement on roofs, things like that. I think all of that eventually is going to bring us back to where we should be, at least on the personal side.
So, what would you most like be new talent, new professionals, or somebody considering the insurance industry to take away from what you've learned at this year's conference? Like they've not heard the sessions. You
Yeah,
have.
that's
So, what
right.
are some nuggets?
I think the cybersecurity session one was probably the biggest thing that I'll be taking away as far as those types of sessions that we went through. It's
What about it?
just being careful online because there are so many scams out there, and what you post on Facebook, anything like that. I mean, it just seems so small putting something out on Facebook, but that's your digital footprint. That's going to
Right.
follow you forever.
Hmm.
So I would say that for someone going into the industry, you want to just be mindful of what you're putting out to the public, because that can alter your perception if you're looking for a job in the future, anything like that.
Matthew,
Yeah,
thanks so much for sitting down with
of
Awkward
course.
Insurance today.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I really appreciate it.
Got Ben Burleson with me from Progressive. I'm so happy to have you here today. I've got a quick question for you. What have you gotten out of the 2024 PA conference that gives you hope for the future of the insurance industry?
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great conference and really kind of an energizing conference, I would say. And one of the biggest takeaways I've had is the amount of young agents and young insurance professionals that have been at this one have been very encouraging just to
Mm,
see influx of the next generation of people that are going to be working in the Arkansas insurance industry for
hmm.
the future.
Yeah, I like that. One focus that I think I've gotten out of this conference is there's kind of a tech focus. There was a cybersecurity session. There was a session on building an agency for retirement. The catch there is don't forget to retire. But the conversation around that was utilizing tech, something that you can utilize. I think that was with Victor Worley. And one thing I brought out with him was, that technology really helps you step away from your desk so you can enjoy your life. And then you kind of set your sights on retirement. The other one was with Casey Nelson and talking about the onboarding process, which again allows agents or industry professionals to be able to step away from their desk and know that those processes that they've set in place can keep going even without them sitting there,
Right.
right? So, knowing what you've heard or learned from the sessions that have a little bit of a tech focus, excuse me, what would you most like for new insurance professionals or young talent that we are desperately trying to recruit into the industry to know from the sessions that you experienced?
No, great pickup. Tech has been a focus in just innovating how agencies operate, processes, procedures, communication with clients. All those things have been addressed this week. And I've been at Progressive for 6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing because we have a full suite of
Of tech.
online marketing. Yes, online marketing opportunities that are free for agents to use. It would shock you. Very small percentage of agents actually utilize those tools and resources.
Right.
And you've been in it, so
Right.
you know that. But this emphasis on tech and evolving what you do as an agency, I think it's been great, and we'll get more of those agents, especially the younger ones that have attended a conference like this, especially if they attended it with somebody that's maybe older in their agency. We'll get them talking and
Yes.
philosophizing on how can we bring these back to the
Is
office.
philosophizing a word?
It is now. But like I saw David Coker and his son Andrew, came together, and you have David who's been in the business for a long time, and Andrew who's newer into it, and they're getting to hear these things together, and then go to lunch and talk about like how could we
Exactly.
implement this into our agency. And I'm hoping that when I go back and visit with agents, they start considering, oh, we've had these tools and resources right here in front of us for a long time, just never really utilized them. And so that'll get us talking in the office as follow-ups of, well, yeah, let's put it into play. Let's try it out and see how it works.
I love it. Everything good starts with a conversation first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I get a ton of deer in the headlight looks from agents when I'm like, hey, pull up the marketing side on For Agents Only. Let's look at email blasts, or let's look at, lead generation or social media posts. They're like, what? Just word of mouth referrals. Like that's all we do here. And it's like, no, there's this whole other world out there
Right.
that some agents, a very small majority, are taking advantage of and using to their benefit, that your everyday, whether you're a mom and pop shop, whether you're a small local professional, could be utilizing to dramatically increase, their footprint, dramatically increase the service side that they offer to their existing clients. They were just talking in there about automated text messaging, and like think about with the weather that we have in Arkansas that comes in, how useful that could be,
Right.
sending texts out to your clients to
Oh
say,
my
hey,
gosh, right?
park your cars in the garage, do the things you need to do to prepare for that coming in.
I think we got Ben on a soapbox just now.
Yes, yes,
Ben, thanks so much for sitting down with us today. I really appreciate your hot take on the 2024 PIA conference.
for sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, we're here with Mary Catherine Henderson with CrossPoint Insurance.
Yes.
Did I get all that right?
That's right.
All right, got it. Thanks for sitting down with Awkward Insurance yet again.
You are so welcome. I love being the queen of awkward. I got this.
So I've got a very specific question for you. What have you gotten out of the 2024 PIA Arkansas conference that gives you hope for the future of the insurance industry? Just pull on everything that you've heard, the interactions that you've had. Let's leave out the night trips to the local
That's the
areas.
best part. So I think hope it's a great word, right? Because we're kind of all struggling right now. I mean, the insurance industry is hard. And so it's kind of hard to have hope when all you feel like is you're just struggling every single day. But when you get to come together and you get to all be just in communion together with each other and talk about our struggles, that alone gives you hope, right? Because you're not the only one going through this. So I think the coolest thing for me here, I am the current YIP board president for PIA, which is Young Insurance Professionals, and I am not young. So I am very excited that we have so many young people on the board, right? It's time for me to kind of step back into the old insurance professionals, but I'm leaving it in such capable hands. So being here this week and seeing all of these young people excited about insurance, that we've got some people entering this industry and we're going to keep moving forward, that's kind of the best part. So getting to be with them has absolutely been the best. That's my hope.
Thinking about some of the topics that have been presented at this year's conference, they had a bit of a tech focus. Most of them did. Understanding that tech is evolving at a much more rapid pace than it's being adopted. What do you hope new insurance professionals or incoming young talent can take away from a conference like 2024 PIA Arkansas conference?
Well, I'm a grandma in the tech world. I'm a late adopter of
Listen, we
most.
call them seasoned professionals. Let's get away from the language.
of grandma. So I struggle with adopting new tech, right? I've been doing this I started in insurance when I was 16. So I am 21 years in this industry now. So I'm kind of set in my ways. And so I need young people to come in and shake it up and show me the better way to do things. There is a better way to skin most cats. So I think that's going to be the best part of having young people in this industry is that they are more tech focused and they are willing to adopt technology more quickly than us seasoned veterans of the industry.
I love it. MK, thanks so much for sitting down with Awkward Insurance again.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that's it for our first conference episode of the year. Stay tuned for more Awkward on the Road. Join us on Facebook to learn where we're heading next. And don't forget to say hi if you catch us in the wild. Toodles, everybody. Matt, don't forget the bloopers. I cannot wait to see what the next 6 months to 1 year looks like for the insurance sphere. She's been working diligently on an insurance.
What is it that you do ever?
So,
First up, we're going to hear
but we try to expose students to so many. Was that for us?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
we were talking about here.